A friend of mine, and this is a true story, recently asked me, am I qualified to buy a house? Or, like, how do I qualify to buy a house? Genuinely, I thought to myself, that's a great question. It's kind of the wrong question, but I do understand where your head's at. The question works because you don't technically qualify for a home, you qualify for a loan. As far as the house part goes, that's more about what you can afford, what's available, and what you're willing to take on. That right there is where people tend to get into trouble. So let's talk about what you're actually qualifying for. When you're qualifying for a loan or getting pre-approved, what the lender is doing is they're deciding how much money they're willing to lend to you. When a lender says you're approved, what they're looking at, your income, your credit score, your debt to income ratio, your job history. So this would also include pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements. And with all this information, they're deciding, what kind of borrower you are, meaning how risky is it going to be to lend you this money? Are you known for paying back loans or things that you have taken money out for? Do you make enough? How much money is coming in? How much money is going out? And where in there does a mortgage payment fit? That's where you're qualifying for the loan. And I will add, a good agent should have a lender or a handful of lenders that they recommend to you. When your realtor recommends a lender to you, it's pretty much assumed that it's because they have a good working relationship. It's important to make sure that you're working with a good lender. And I will say, when I recommend some lenders to clients, it's not because I'm getting some sort of kickback or because there's any benefit to me recommending a specific lender. What it really boils down to is that lender's, successful closing rate, and with that, kind of the lack of friction to get to the closing table. That's what's important. I think that's really what makes up a good lender. I've worked with good lenders and I've worked with not so good lenders. And the ones that are good, they're Johnny on the spot. They're good with communication. They hustle for you. They look out for you. And there's also some extreme value in when they work. Some lenders work similar hours to agents, so nights and weekends you can still get a hold of them, whereas some lenders may work bank hours, so it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. And what's rather inconvenient about that is that most real estate stuff is happening on nights and weekends. Majority of the time when I'm looking at houses with clients or we're writing up offers, it's again on these nights and weekends. And so if there's a question for the lender, if you need an updated pre-approval to send in with that offer, knowing that someone is on the other end that is willing to take an email, answer your text is seriously huge. Until you've gone through the process with a bad lender, it's hard to kind of understand the value in that, but believe me, and literally it can be the difference between getting a house and not getting a house sometimes. When the lender does pre-approve you, on your pre-approval, it will say what type of loan and then what is required as a down payment. You're either going to see a conventional loan, which can require anywhere from 3 to 20% down. There's FHA loans, which require 3.5% down. However, they have more flexible credit requirements. There's a VA loan, which is 0% down, but you have to be a veteran. This is only offered to eligible military service members. And then there are USDA loans. Again, this is 0% down, but this is for rural home buyers. When you get pre-approved, you will have this information. It'll tell you kind of the numbers and what you're looking at. But here's the thing, just because you get approved for a certain number doesn't mean that you have to spend that number. I mean, this is not financial advice. I'm not a lender or a financial advisor. Just saying that pre-approval number might be beneficial to look at it as a ceiling rather than your comfort zone as far as your budget goes. What actually matters when you're buying isn't necessarily the price of the house. You need to think about how does that payment fit into your life? I think this really gets to the bottom of the initial question. Am I qualified to buy a house? And if you are curious, am I qualified to buy a house? Reach out to me. My name is Paul Winkleman. I'm a realtor here in Minnesota. I work on the To the Twin Cities team, and this video, this YouTube channel, it's all about helping first-time home buyers buy their first house, understand the process, know what to look out for. My goal is to just be very educational, be a great asset for home buyers. So if you want to chat, if you have any questions, please absolutely feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at paul@tothetwincities.com. You can text me, you can call me. I have a website, paulwinkleman.com, where you can fill out a contact form. Whatever medium you choose to reach out to me, I promise you will get a response. And so let's talk about how this payment fits into your life. One, let's think about the monthly payment itself. Because like I said, I always tell people, don't necessarily focus on the purchase price, focus on how that breaks down per month. The things to take into consideration are going to be that mortgage payment, which will typically include the property taxes and your insurance. It depends on how your mortgage is set up. If you have an escrow account set up for those funds, then you also have to consider obviously your utilities and then just the general home maintenance. I think being able to narrow down on this number really helps you kind of envision like the qualification for the home and how these monthly expenses are gonna fit into your life. People tend to underestimate things when it comes to your lifestyle after purchasing a home, or even before. There are things to take into consideration. So ask yourself, what does your lifestyle look like now? What are things you like to do? Do you travel a lot? Do you like to go out to eat a lot? I love a good dinner. Maybe your lifestyle includes saving money. Maybe you want to continue to save money, or maybe some of those things you're willing to give up if it means that you don't have to stress every time something breaks in the home, every time there's a maintenance need. It's not like totally jamming you up. If things like traveling and going out to eat are important and you can start to see that, hey, this house payment may end up eating up all my flexibility, whether that means I don't get to travel as much, or you're not saving money, or you have changed your lifestyle so that you're not going out to eat, but you still feel like there's a stress that, hey, if something breaks, it's really gonna affect my budget this month, or it's really gonna affect my finances. I think this is kind of a harsh term, so my apologies. I've heard this tossed around quite a bit, and it's like being house poor. And while, maybe it's not inherently bad, maybe you're a homebody, and the idea of buying a home and owning a home, and that's where all your attention goes, that's where all your energy and your finances goes. If that's your dream, like if that's what you want to do, then that's cool. Then maybe being house poor isn't so bad. But if that's not what you're intending, if you get into a house and a payment that's eating up all your finances, which in turn is then changing your lifestyle, you're not able to do these things that are really important to you, that's the worst. That's where you start to resent your purchase. You hate being a homeowner, you think everything's stupid and this sucks, and it really will, start to wear on you day to day. And then if you zoom out even further on like a bigger financial scope, maybe things get a little tighter with this house purchase, but you still feel like you'll be able to travel and go out to eat, enjoy those things. Could bigger picture things arise from this, like, hey, maybe you are no longer able to invest money where you'd like to, and or you're no longer building your savings or building it as fast as you'd like to, and then ultimately you're kind of just putting a lot of these things on hold, then those are still signs that you may be stretching it too thin, if those are things that are important to you. The biggest takeaway from this being a house shouldn't come at the expense of everything else, whether that be going out to eat or investing money into your 401k. And then that leads me to the last thing I believe to be important to take into consideration is going to be your financial cushion. And I think this is something that a lot of people can tend to look past if they've already crunched the numbers and made certain sacrifices in the things I've already mentioned. This one is super important because something will go wrong in your house. I'll say it, it's gonna happen. It's either gonna be the furnace in the middle of the winter, or your water heater, or on the hottest day of the summer, your air conditioning is gonna go out, your plumbing's gonna fail. Whatever it may be, it will happen. And if you buy your home and you've got nothing left over, you've got no wiggle room in your budget to be setting money aside, that's when your stress is going to very quickly turn into regret. So it's not just, can you afford the house? The bigger, more important question is, can you afford the house and still maintain your lifestyle? Maybe even just be happy. How does everything about your life and this home need to shake out to where you still feel comfortable? And can all of these things still remain in your life? And with that mortgage payment, do you feel qualified to buy this house? Like I said, a lender will approve you. You will get qualified for something, but there are levels to qualifying. In this scenario, there's a more broad understanding of what it means to qualify for a home. So yes, to my friend who asked me this question, you will most likely qualify, but you're not qualifying for the house, you're qualifying for the loan. Where you need to be smart as a buyer is understanding what actually makes sense for you and your specific position. If you're thinking about buying and you need a sweet lender, or you want to ask somebody knowledgeable some questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. If you've watched this video all the way to the end, as always, I appreciate you so much, and I will catch you on the next one. See you later.